Hello, booktublets. Hello. Dan here with the tag. Thank you very much, Heather, for tagging me for the Places You Will Go tag. I had this read to me in Washington, D.C. by a State Department official sending my cohort off to Mali to serve in the Peace Corps. It is, of course, wonderful Dr. Seuss um, book, a common gift in for graduations. And let's see the first question here. They have components, a book component, and then a life component. So you can hear more about me than you ever wanted to know. The first place that I visit in a bookstore. This has changed over time. Um, was a time when I was uh, would go straight to the folklore section. Um, there was a time when I would go straight to the humor section when I was feeling low. And there was a time when I would go straight to the literary criticism section, if there is one. And that's probably what I would go to now if I went to a big bookstore that might have that. Otherwise, I head pretty much to the classics if they have their own section. Or whatever display grabs my eye, grabs my attention. Oh, I'll head, of course, first of all, straight to the discount table. That's where I'll head. All right, so a life decision that I made. Many. Oh, heavens, certainly my marriage and not my divorce. That was not my idea. Speaking of which, deciding to live, that was a pretty big life decision at a certain point. I think a big life decision that I made, I don't have major regrets in my life, but I do sometimes wonder if I hadn't gone straight to my PhD program, I was 22 years old, straight in like that, and I ended up quitting, which was wonderful because I went to Peace Corps, but I do think maybe academic environment would probably have been the best place for me to have ended up. And if I were ever going to have had a proper sort of career and that sort of thing. And it didn't happen. But, never too late. Maybe I will finish my PhD when I'm 90 years old. Something like that. Okay, second question. Something that I don't read anymore. Well, I don't really read self-help anymore. Um, don't really read new agey stuff anymore. Um, no big reasons for any of this, and it could always change. And certainly, a specific title could grab my interest. But in general, not really perusing those sections too much. Um, I usually read mysteries when I'm in New Mexico, when I'm around my mom. She reads them, and so I get them from her. Um, During COVID, one of the secondhand bookstores put out basically like all their pulp novels. I mean, books and books and books of those 10-cent books, from the old school sci-fi and fantasy and all that, and mysteries. I read a ton then. So having gotten through those ones, haven't read as much of that since. Suppose I don't read as much academically as I used to when I was in academia, but I still do like to when I get a chance. Every once in a while I miss it, believe it or not. Something that I've learned to value most. I wish I'd written that question better. Something I've learned to value most. Friendship, certainly, whereas I've always been a very gregarious and outgoing person in my life. I'm definitely an extrovert in that way. My life has become, for various reasons, more and more and more isolated. I suppose society is as well, right? and therefore I don't like that. I like to share my meals with people. I don't like eating alone. Um, cover, an attractive cover to a book. I don't really pay nearly as much attention to covers, I'm learning, as most people on BookTube. Let me think if I can remember covers that have really stood out in my mind. They certainly wouldn't decide me. I suppose they sometimes do decide what you open up and flip through, but instead, usually buying books of authors that I know. It's really the author and title that I buy. Um, I had a book of I mentioned this in the apocalypse tag, a book of about yay big, of sort of the world's 1,000 most important paintings, those kind of books. That of course was great, not only as um, the cover of course was some beautiful work of art. I don't remember which, but I where was I living at that time? I would take pages from it and I would put them up around my room. So I was surrounded by works of great art, small but still. So that was great, definitely. All right, the most beautiful place I visited. Oh, again. Uh, well, everyone's more focused on nature, and certainly my 2 years sleeping under the Saharan sky, that's unbelievable. If you're ever afforded time with the full scope of stars that are out there, if you have that level of visibility, it will touch your soul. It will change you. So every night I had that. That was amazing. But for me, it's more of the faces, the people. So I love being in Thailand with all the smiles. I prefer the South in the United States because I do like, passing people by, saying hello. I think it's good for the soul. It's a little hurtful when you're passing everyone by and no one's saying anything to anyone. Um, the in Africa, I really loved. There's so many children, so the children's faces is when you first return to the village. Kausu, Kausu. They're just beautiful, smiling faces. So that's the most beautiful thing I've seen is the smiling children. Okay, four, confident. Um, Something that you're confident that you know lots about. Oh yes. Oh, I knew there was one of these questions that I thought I bet you'd prepare that one ahead of time. Um, at various times, there have been things I felt more or less confident about. There was a time when I could have spoke to you pretty much about most of what had been written up till then about Georges Braque, because I was writing a thesis on him and his work. But that's been so many years now since. So I'm hoping there's been tons of new scholarship on him. So I wouldn't say I'm up to date on that. Um, there was a times, various times when I thought, yeah, no, I don't speak confidently, obviously, about. I always feel a little imposter syndrome. I suppose I'm a pseudo intellectual, right? So I like to talk about those eggheady things. But when I got to graduate school, boy, did I learn that there are people on the next level. So I know a lot about a lot of different things, or I know a little about a lot of different things, if you prefer. But there was a time when I felt much more confident that there was going to become an age, I suppose now, my latter years, when I was going to have this wisdom that I've been seeking my whole life to share with people. And I have little tidbits, and sometimes do regret that no one's interested. But certain religious ideas that I felt were more comforting and helpful for people, that I would have liked to have helped them have that in their life. Buddhist things and things of that nature. But when you meet that person who does radiate, you know, like like a bodhisattva type person, like my buddy Prince in Africa, and they have such peace, and their heart is just so still and calm and happy and radiating joy. Now they have an authority to speak, so I could speak maybe on the themes that they might speak to with similar words, but I wouldn't have that same authority. Maybe one day, if I get there. Probably not in this lifetime. I'll let you know. So mastermind specialist subject. So yeah, this is a quiz show on British TV. What could you ask me about? Well, I won't say that, but in if anyone remembers the old board game Trivial Pursuit, I hope it's still around. It was a good one, deserves to endure in the board game renaissance. There were 5 or 6 categories, and some of them changed according to the country where you were playing. But I always did very well in history, and especially geography, which I think was blue. Um, Literature, and science, believe it or not. Back in school, I even did well in maths, but it bored me, the fact that it was just this one answer. I know when you get to higher math, it gets interesting again. I used to like proofs and like figuring out geometric proofs for things. But yeah, so though I did well in maths, I just wasn't as interested. So I didn't go on with that. But yeah, in most of the other fields I did. At that time back then, I did terrible in sports, for which I now know quite a bit about quite a few sports, um, but not like, sports fanatics. But, I've just been around long enough, and, I am interested in a certain number of sports. And then I used to also be terrible at entertainment, the pink category, which I think I do a lot better now. Again, I've just been around long enough that, you know, I've watched a lot of the old Hollywood movies and Criterion Collection, foreign movies and stuff now. So I would probably just still do terrible. Of course, I would still do terrible in any pop culture stuff, the music, all of this kind of thing. Although I'm on YouTube now, so I see a little bit more what the kids are getting up to. Oh, heaven help us. But anyway, those were my categories in Trivial Pursuit. Number 5 says, oh yeah, something that you don't relate to in book wise. What I don't relate to. Well, there are books that I don't relate to, so I'm not going to pretend that there's not. This has been covered in a couple tags already. Um, I don't relate to more formulaic fiction. Um, Prefer, stuff to surprise me. I don't relate to certain publishing trends, but I'm not going to go into what they are. But they're not the ones that everyone's ranting about on BookTube. But for the most part, I'm not interested in about half of nonfiction books that come out. I'll just leave it at that. Um, and yeah, I'm into most things. I can relate to most things, or try to. Something that I've given up doing. Yes, alas, at my current size, I've had to give up all my sports. So whereas in high school I lettered in, it's a very American thing. Ask a Yank to explain to you if you're a Brit or an Aussie or a Kiwi or South African or whatever. You might be Turkish, Argentinian. Um, yeah, in high school we get these letters on our little jackets when we've done sports. You get pins. So I did soccer, football, um, tennis, and basketball. But really, my love was volleyball, and I finally did get to do it in played college volleyball. That was my university sport. But boys didn't play volleyball in high school in America. Don't ask me why. I hope that's changed. But anyway, yeah, I've had to give up all my sports, and basically swimming is what I do now, because It's the safest thing for my size. So miss that very much. I miss the play. Just when you're just on the field and there's nothing but the ball. There's nothing but that. Your mind just shuts down. Some of us bookish people have overactive minds, and it's really nice to have something that you just sort of play at. Not into, for whatever reason, video games. Um, I liked board games until people got so fanatical about them. Um, but yeah, I miss play. I need more kids in my life to do Legos with or something. I don't know. TBR. What do I TBR? What have I TBR'd? I do tend to finish most books that I get, quarter into. I think, if I'm going to not do it, I'm going to figure it out pretty early on. And it's pretty rare, so I don't spend a lot of time with books that I don't finish. But it's not because I'm maniacal about finishing things. That I don't have time for that anymore. I'm getting old, but I am pretty discerning about what I like. I make mostly good choices. I see some of y'all reviewing. It seems like most of your reviews are books that you don't like. I feel bad for you that you're reading so many things that you don't like. I hope you can figure out what it is that you do like, and spend your time, wisely reading things that you're gonna love. And I'm just not interested in doing a ton of reviews for you guys about books that I think are, bad or not for me anyway, um, or not that I wouldn't recommend for most readers. Yeah, that doesn't seem to have a lot of. I'd much rather spend my time celebrating all these great books out there and letting you know about them, especially as there's such a variety, way beyond the sort of what the core of the most viewership of BookTube seems in a little bit of a I won't say echo chamber. What do they call that? Group think, um, which is fine, which is great, especially when it's stuff that they're just absolutely in love with certain sci-fi series or fantasy series, especially. But there's so many books out there, so many. All right, so things I'm looking forward to this year. Um, oh, I did. I, I read TBR and I gave you the spiel for DNF. DNF. Do not finish. That just shows how on BookTube I am. Oh, these acronyms, not for me. TBR. What's on my TBR list? I don't really have one. Some of you know that about me, that I'm really totally dependent on the books that I can get to hand, which are usually a handful at a time. I have a few more right now just because I just went to that book fair, but I'll read almost all of them. I'll end up with 2, 3 books in my house that I'm not reading, and I'll pass those on pretty fast because I don't want them out of circulation. And then, I'll read the books, and the books that I've read and enjoyed, I'll pass them on. And so, yeah, don't really have huge TBRs. Usually I'm reading a list like, list of Nobel winners or a list of, great books or something like that. But I haven't had one of those going for quite some time. BookTube is my new obsession. Sorry, I got that totally wrong. This year, something I'm looking forward to in my life. Um, well, just good health. If I can stay healthy, and especially my mom, be healthy. That's all I ask for, really. I have vacation time right now. My contract just rolled over, and we have 2 periods in which we could take it. One of which is the month of April. Everyone is out of the office right now, so I'm able to do all these. But I gotta tell you, I'm not inspired. There's so many amazing things to see in Thailand. I'm looking maybe Pimai, which is amazing ruins, and one of the world's biggest banyan trees. That's sort of tempting. It's not too far away. Kanchanaburi with the bridge of the River Kwai is not too far away. But I'm just feeling very sedentary right now in my life. So we'll see what happens with that. Anything else that I'm looking forward to? I'm not aware of any visitors that are coming to see me, even though I'm in Bangkok, and I hope to have lots of them. If any of you want to come visit, then I'll be looking forward to that. Maybe I'll pop into Malaysia or a couple surrounding countries where I see some interesting YouTubers that'd be fun to have coffee with. If I can find any here in Thailand, maybe I'll go visit them as well. I do have a friend, one of my old friends from when I lived in Thailand before, up in Chiang Mai, which is I do definitely want to go and see her, but that's a little bit far to travel, and I definitely don't feel that level of energy right now. Um, Peace in the world. That's what I'm looking forward to. An end to the shenanigans, especially in my country. All right, 7, the balancing act. How do I balance it all? Well, I've just done a video on that. How we're not all reading all this massive tomes as we seem to be, or at least I'm not. Maybe some people are. I work, so I am lucky enough in that I have these low periods in my work. Right now, the kids are out for Ramadan, so we're not teaching classes. Today I actually worked. Just finished a couple hours of proofing some curriculum stuff for the Thai teachers as a native, make sure that it'll all look good. But yeah, it's been kind of slow here lately. I swim, and that's about it. So the rest of my time is for reading, watching, and tourism, of course, in Bangkok. Go to see art galleries and festivals and stuff. Um, for me, the watching is Netflix cracked down, so I haven't had any watching streaming service for quite some time. I can't access my brothers anymore, so I've really only been watching YouTube, which I was enjoying watching old British sitcoms and some old movies and stuff. But then I really got into the sort of brainy side of YouTube, went down some holes. Oh my gosh, I spent a lot of time um, with some anthropology stuff and just a lot of really great learning. Um, but eventually found BookTube, so almost all of my watching now I watch, BookTube, and occasionally some sports or something to sort of turn my brain off, but or some silly comedy skits. So I don't have too much to balance. I'm pretty lucky that way. My videos, I'm very lucky, but you too, in that I come straight to camera, don't script, speak to you, turn it off, and post it. I don't edit anything. No bells and whistles so far. My goal is to spend as little time on the tech and as much on the book side of that as possible. So far, it's going great. I'm probably turning off a ton of viewers that way, but what can you do? I am who I am, and for now, that's where I feel like I want to be at. So that's how I balance. My bigger question is, how do you all balance with families and commutes and all that stuff that I remember from back in life in the fast lane? I don't envy. So yeah, once I'll retire here in a few years, and I'll look forward to really having more time for like my writing. That's the thing I'm not finding time for these days. So blessings to you all, and thank you for these tags. I'm gonna tag some people definitely, but I'm gonna put it in the description box down below. So look for your name down there. If you don't see it, you are tagged. I tag you. Tell me all about the places you'll